Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully you can hear me. And here we are. We're talking about why dowsing rods might go completely mad, spinning like a crazy top, like a windmill, or they might just sit there and do nothing when you ask them questions. Before we get going, I'm just going to pull this across. It's a shame to keep the sunshine out, but there you go. That's better, isn't it? Right. Okay. Do say hello if anybody's present. Hello, there are 6 of you there, and do click the thumbs up sign to say hello and that you like what we're doing here. So we're going to talk about dowsing. We're going to go through some of the stuff that we've covered before, but hopefully we're not going to be repeating too much. So do dig around a little bit and have a look at the previous lives as well, if you like what you hear today. Hello, folks. Tina, hello. Nice to see you. That's nice. Hello, Mr. FMC and JF. JF will be moderating today as usual, regular. Hello, Barbara. Nice to see you there. JF will be keeping an eye out for these nasty little bots that come through and monopolize everything. And if we see one of those or any human completely monopolizing the chat, we will ban them from the channel. But there you go. Right. That's just to keep everything nice and sensible and straight for us doing the live. Apologies, didn't do one last month. Busy, eh? Everybody's so busy. So look, let's go through with this. And I want to try to be a little bit more organized and structured than sometimes happens. Let's see how that goes. So what we're going to look at is, first of all, I want to give you some background. I'm going to follow this up, hopefully, with another live soon. Do keep your eyes open on the channel just to see when that's going to be. But that one is going to be more about why we suffer from what is known as chi fear. So chi is the energy of the life force. It's the subtle energy flowing all around the planet. It's kind of an equivalent of earth energy and all of that sort of stuff. We'll talk about that next time. But today I want to lead up to that because we want to talk about some of the basics. And I've got a mixture here of some notes that I've made based on the sort of stuff that we've been talking about and in the longer form videos. And also we've got some questions that have been asked and comments that have been made from you guys. Some that we missed, we didn't get to in the last live. So we're going to try and cover some of those off and they're all relevant. So we're going to dive in. Now, the principle is, hello, welcome, members and supporter. That's fantastic. Members, I have not done you a video for weeks. There are 40 or so videos in the members section, but do dig around. I have one in the back of my mind that I want to do for you, which would be a nice one. So welcome, C. I'm not going to give you the whole name. Ed. We've only just started. Ed. You haven't missed anything, mate. It's okay. So the basic principle on which I work, as many of you will know, is that I regard dowsing as a process. Yes, it's an intuitive process, but what we're actually doing, what's the mechanism of dowsing? When we're holding a dowsing rod or a pendulum, what are we actually doing when we're asking a question or getting a response? What are we getting it from? Well, what I suggest we are doing is interacting with the quantum field. The quantum field of infinite possibility. So don't tune out if you're allergic to the idea of quantum or don't even know what it is and not interested in knowing what it is. It is actually really fundamental and very, very important because the quantum field of infinite possibility, because that's what it is. We'll talk about that a little bit another time. But the quantum field is there. It is what creates all the atomic particles and therefore all matter in which we exist. For any of you that are scientific, I'm looking at all of this obviously from the non-materialist perspective. Don't worry about that if you're not into science. I tend not to use, I don't try to talk about this stuff in scientific terms, but it's good to reference some of the issues that science is trying to grapple with. If I tried to do it in detailed science, I would get completely lost, as most of us would. So the basics are what we're dowsing. Yes, we're dowsing the universe. We're asking the universe our intention, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Our intention is there and is aimed at the universe concept, the ultimate creator, whatever you like to name that being as, that essence as. But what that is, what the mechanism is that gives us the feedback and gives us a response, and the mechanism in which we live is like the pool of energy in which we all live and experience our reality is emanating from the quantum field. So when I talk about the quantum field, I'm talking about that creative force, creative field, receptive field that gives us our reality. Now, okay, so let's just back off there again, because I'm on the verge of going way too deep, way too soon, and I don't want to go deep in this conversation today. What I will say, folks, is Nancy, hello, nice to see you. So what I would like to say is do ask a question at any point during the chat. I've got questions here that we're going to be responding to. We're going to be bouncing around, but do ask questions, and JF will remind me if I don't cover them off, or even FMC might as well. Bless him. He's a moderator in training. So, okay, here we go. So look, when we think about this quantum field, the amazing thing about all this process, and dowsing really highlights this for us, the amazing thing about this is that the quantum field has to have been created by something, because otherwise how would it exist? Is it self-creating? Well, maybe, but I would go along with the principle or the theory that actually there is another field beyond that, that is an overriding field of consciousness. So let's just use that word, consciousness. Now, in this, I am referring and tipping a hat and a nod over to Donald Hoffman, a cognitive what is he? He's a cognitive psychologist. I've mentioned him quite a lot of the times. He has a theory that consciousness is the basic fundamental aspect of all reality, and they've been doing research on that. But let's come back to the quantum field. The quantum field is created by consciousness, but it also means that the quantum field is actually conscious of itself. So the creative process has a consciousness that we can interact with because we see life. We pick up a pendulum, it's a lump of, that is a lump of the quantum field made manifest and retained in its form in every moment through the intelligence that is within consciousness that it maintains all form. Now, our experience of form, of manifested form, changes moment to moment depending on our vibration. That's the most basic level. Our vibration determines what it is that we interact with in every single moment. Okay? Now, so, okay, Philly Buzz. Now that's a shame. There's no subtitling that you can read. I wonder if there's anything I can do here. Just a sec, folks. Just hold on one sec. I don't know, JF, could you have a little look, see if you've got any settings at your end for subtitling? Hang on, I've just found a button for settings. I did put... No, that's no good. That's just about ads. No, that's feedback. That's no good. I'm going to have to back out and let JF have a go at that. I do apologize, Philip, because I know you've been hanging on for that. I'm glad you caught the live, but if you can't understand us all the way through, then we will sort it out for the replay. Yeah, we're having trouble finding that. I don't want to press a button that says edit. Sorry, Philip. Okay, I'm going to have to go on. Just one sec, folks. I know, be patient with me. Yeah, he certainly will be able to do it with the subtitles later. And I did click the, oh, that's not going to work. Right, okay, Philip, we're going to have to go on, but we tried. We will try for next time. Digsy from Australia, mate, well done. Good for you. Dear, you really should get some sleep, fella. Right. Okay, so what we were talking about was the way that we interact with the quantum field of infinite possibility, the quantum field that is constantly being manifest in every single moment. And when we ask a question, that is where it is going. And when we get a response, it is a response from the consciousness that is within the quantum field of infinite possibility. Right. Okay. So it's not the dowsing rod. The key thing is the response is not coming from the dowsing rod itself. Don't get too hung up on or too worried or concerned about the idea that you are interacting with the conscious field of infinite possibility. It's exactly the same as if you didn't know that, but I like to explain what it is that we're doing. It's exactly the same if you were just asking the question and thinking, right, I'm going to ask the universe a question. I'm going to ask the universe, am I standing up at the moment? And obviously I'm not standing up, so we get a response. You can hardly see this. Am I standing up? No, I'm not. Right, okay. So I'm asking the field of infinite possibility to give me a response. It recognizes what I'm doing as an energy being. And the reason why, and you will have noticed earlier in the conversation that the rod was constantly, it's going a bit mental. The rod was constantly responding as I'm talking, partly because I learnt to dowse in a conversational way. And so therefore it is reacting. The quantum field of infinite possibility is reacting all the time to what I am saying and the process itself. Okay. So, and there's also guidance in personality form that is present and is also giving subtle clues and making things happen. So that guidance is usually what we call spirit guides and that sort of thing. But don't worry about that at the moment. Let's come back to the basics. When you pick up a dowsing rod, we'll start with rods. You're going to ask a question, and that question wants to be a closed question. Always ask a question that is going to give you either a yes response or a no response. Now, obviously, with a rod, it sits in the hand, and when it comes towards you, or comes towards me, usually people have got two rods. All right, I'll do it properly for you guys that are beginners. Okay, let's try and do this. Hang on. Whoa, hello, stand by. Right, are we ready? Okay, so usually when we ask for a yes response, the rods will go towards us. If we ask for a no response, it's sometimes a little bit harder and they'll go outwards. I very often use one rod. One rod is more responsive for me than the other one. But there you go. So that's the basic principle. Now, some of you, and for some unknown reason, the rods that are sold on Amazon, for example, I know, let's skip the downside of Amazon, but if people want to get hold of rods quickly, they can get them from Amazon. But the rods that are sold on Amazon have a sleeve on the handle end. And some of you will like that, and that's fine, but I personally don't. Now, one of the things we talked in the title here about why rods go wild, so they can literally be going like this, and you don't know why they're doing that. Now, sometimes they're doing that. I was doing that deliberately, of course. Sometimes they're doing that purely because they're sitting in the sleeve, and the sleeve means that they are so reactive that they're going to do anything. And as you try to kind of stop them coming all the way around here, you're doing minute muscular movements. That means actually, well, they're going to go round again. And then you try to correct that and they go round again. So you end up with this propeller motion. Now, you can also have that same propeller motion when you are really holding it still and it's just moving on its own. It's going round and round and round. So if you're doing earth energy investigations or crop circle investigations, this is a classic one where you can get some really interesting vortices that will affect a rod. And you don't even need to ask a question. You just go in there and you're kind of like, oh, okay, looking for earth energy. And then it's going to stop at a certain place. And then it's going to really whiz round as you hold your hand really still. The reason for that is because you're not really asking an intentional question, but what it's doing is it's showing you generally earth energy. Talk about that. Sorry, I haven't linked that to what I was saying earlier on. I will do in a sec. So what that's doing is really giving you a kind of a static response, almost a sort of interference response. It knows it's telling you something's there. There's energy there, and okay, what do you want to do with it? You know, basically that's the sort of question that it's asking. So let's back up again. Let me connect the dots for you because I'm aware that I've already hurtled ahead, and I've probably lost some of you already. But I talked about the quantum field of infinite possibility, the quantum field that everything is made from. When I use the words earth energy are flows of electromagnetic, some people call them geomagnetic, that's fine because they're associated with the earth, flows of earth energy, flows of different intensities of energy, an energetic field, an electromagnetic field across the earth it goes out into space as well, and it seems to be partly generated by the movement of the Earth through space. But this field is in absolutely everything. And so we detect it as this electromagnetic field. But equally, when we douse Earth energy, we can consider it as being representative of the quantum field. Now, the reason I say I'm going to reference my book here, right? Okay, because this is worth picking up if you are interested in Earth energy in particular, and interested in dowsing, and interested in developing yourself intuitively and spiritually. The reason I'm plugging that now, it's available from Amazon, but you can also order it from any bookseller anywhere, as far as I know, anywhere in the world. I'm pretty sure. You need the ISBN number, which is on the Amazon page. JF, would you mind flying over to Amazon and picking up the ISBN number? And there you go, mate. Good. Pop the ISBN number in there for me, please, JF. That would be fantastic. Good man. Way ahead of me. That's great, isn't it? So look, you can order it from a bookseller and help the local, economy, the real people, rather than Amazon. Now, so in here, this is showing you, this takes you on a path that takes you from learning to dowse in the broadest of senses. You can mix what you learn in the book with what you can learn from the web, from the YouTube channel, and learn to dowse. You learn to hold the things properly, learn to ask these questions. We'll be talking more about that in a minute. And the book gives you exercises that you can explore and develop and ask the big questions of Earth energy. And you don't have to go anywhere. You can do it in the comfort of your home, because the field of infinite possibility, the quantum field, is absolutely everywhere. Now, it is fun to go out to sacred sites, and it is brilliant to go out and feel the power of those sites. But if you want to work with Earth energy in a healing capacity, so therefore, when you are working with Earth energy at a very focused level, and you are using your intention in a very focused way for the benefit either of yourself or somebody else, and therefore you're drawing down the power of the higher frequencies, the highest frequencies you can connect to up there, as it were. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm going to get really distracted and sidetracked. But when you're working like that, to achieve results, you don't need to go to the big sacred sites. They're lovely to go to. And if you want to feel a part of a community, then by all means, go to them. But for that other type of person, that hermit type person that is like me, you can stay at home. The introvert in us says, because it's a field of infinite possibility and it's the quantum level, time, space do not have the same relevance at that level. So when you're working in a healing capacity, you can do it from anywhere, and it is just as effective. Now, I know Lynn McTaggart wrote a book called The Field, and she's talked all about this, and she's also written one called The Power of Eight, in which when you work as a group and you set in focused intention, then it optimizes and maximizes the effect of that healing. Yes, sure, that's absolutely correct. I'm not saying correct. I'm not sure who said correct. That is a principle that works, right? But that's an entirely different subject, and I've gone way off the track as it is already. Okay. So, and good to see you. Hey. Great. Where can one buy recommended rods? Yes, well, I know. Okay. So, my friend, Adrian Incledon-Weber, who you may have seen me having a conversation with or two on the channel, he sells these very rods, the simplest of things. So he's here in the UK. JF, keeping you on your toes this day today, could you nip over to www.dowsingspirits.co.uk, Adrian's website, go to his shop, and thank you. And, oh, excuse me. And in his shop, you will find these. They cost about £16. I get no benefit from plugging his site, but that is the best source of these simple rods. There was a website, www.penwithpress.co.uk, sells lots of books about dowsing, run by a lady called, oh, how can I forget her name? Gosh, I'm sorry. I do apologize. That's ridiculous. So penwithpress.co.uk used to sell the big dowsing rods that Hamish Miller used to make, and then somebody else was making them afterwards. I don't think they are available from there. I don't think that anybody makes them anymore, but you could check that out. It's a good source of dowsing books. Right, coming back on. John Stevens, hello there. Hi. By the way, if you want to send me a particular question, folks, can you put at Tim Walter or at Knights Rose and it'll stand out for me? That'd be brilliant. Okay. So as a beginner dowser, you're going to pick up 2 rods and you're going to have basic ones. Ideally, if sheaths, if handles are not working for you, then just get the basic ones. See how that goes for you. I use one because it's just easier. So I'm going to do the rest of this today. If I'm demonstrating, I'm going to use just one, but imagine I've got 2, right? So now, to a certain extent, we've covered the spinning of the rods. I've said it before, and most of you will have heard me say this before, that dowsing is a 2-stage process. You ask a question and you get a response. You can just pick up the rods and get a bit of a response and walk around the house and it'll show you things, but you don't know why it's showing you them. So think of dowsing as a 2-stage process. You ask a question, you get a response. Again, like I said earlier on with the spinning rods, when you're investigating earth energy at crop circles or something like that, if they're just going mad and spinning, you probably haven't asked a question. Hone it down. So when you've got spinning rods, stop them, be as focused as you can. And even if you're out and about in the middle of a field somewhere, it is actually best to really focus and still yourself, so that you go into more of a meditative state of mind, so that you bring your brainwave function more into an altered state of consciousness. In other words, one that is different from your day-to-day monkey chatter. You don't want to be just wandering out of your car, going across a field, and then it's like, yeah, well, thinking about what you're going to have for tea that night, and then start going, right, where's this thing that I'm looking for? Where's this earth energy center? You want to be respectful both of yourself, of the process, and of what you are asking. So respect helps hugely, and it kind of brings you into an alignment along with phrases like gratitude and that sort of thing. Gratitude is hugely important, and in life coaching circles and spiritual development circles, you know, it's this whole thing of the attitude of gratitude. It's a bit of a trite saying, but gratitude is incredibly important. And the reason why it is really relevant to what we're talking about today is because the quantum field, bizarrely, doesn't react to words, right? What it is reacting to when you douse is actually what you are feeling in here. So how does that work? Well, because we're an energy being, we use words as our audio symbols. It's an audio symbol. It's the code that we recognize and we work with to understand each other at the human level. But when we're interacting with the earth, it's not completely true 100% of the time. When we go into intensive focused dowsing, what we're doing is we're using the intent of the emotions, the emotional energy associated with our inner self, to connect in intentionally with the subtle realms, with the subtle energy, with the quantum field. Does that make sense? It's difficult to talk about this stuff because we have to constantly remember that we are not this static unchanging thing. What we actually are is a wave of energy, just like everything else is a vibrating wave of energy. And all of our associated emotions and thoughts and all mental processes even create different vibrating waves of energy. But us as an energy being still have the attributes of a wave rather than a solid lump of unchanging stuff that we think we are, right? Because we're not. We're being constantly recreated in every moment, just like the pendulum is being constantly recreated in every moment from the same field, from the same energy matter, from the same source material. Now, I'm aware that you've been chittering, which is all good. Are your rods just a mild steel or brass copper? These are just as far as I know, these are just a basic mild steel. That's the word that you used. That's what I would use. It's a great question, Diggsy, because the rods do not need to be made of anything in particular to work. Right now, if you think about it, the old dowsers, the classic image of the dowser, the old man wandering across the field to find water. So water dowsing, you'll know this very well, Diggsy, but is using a bit of tree, a branch. Is it willow or hazel? One of the two. I always get confused. And it's bending, reacting. It's in that case, it's the wood. In that case, the tool is made of wood. The thing to remember is twofold. One, the implement itself is obviously not giving us an answer, as I said earlier on, but the implement itself is not the crucial part of the mechanism. The implement itself is simply like the analog dial on something. It's the end result that is showing us the yes or the no, right? The thing that is actually doing the work is the person, is the dowser. But even then, the only reason it feels like it's not, the only reason it feels like there's either somebody on the end waggling it around, which sometimes there might be. Read my book, there's a case in there where I was talking about that. I will constantly mention my book for the next few years. So it either feels like somebody's on the end waggling it around, or you feel as though it's a bit magical, whereas in fact it's not. It's entirely subconscious responses that are moving the muscles in very minute ways within the arm, within the body, responding to the subconscious responses going on in here, and it is making the rod move. So in a way, critics will love this. In a way, we are doing it ourselves. But the point is, we don't recognize we're doing it. This is what the ideomotor effect is called. And cynics use the ideomotor effect as a way of dismissing dowsing. But what we know as dowsers is that the ideomotor effect actually is the way it works, because it is the subconscious. It's our energy system picking up information and transferring it into the material world and into the muscular movements, and it affects the rod. More often than not, that was added in. More often than not. Okay, more often than not. So does it matter? No, it doesn't really matter what they are. So the thing is that Diggsy, yours are homemade and with copper, which is brilliant. And copper is a fantastic thing. But is us not the metal? But is us not the metal? Yes, exactly. So if you're are you struggling, Diggsy? Put a yes or a no. Are you struggling to get a decent response from your copper rods? Because I would have thought that if you've made your own rods, that is brilliant. They may be slightly out of balance, perhaps. Sometimes people make this end too long, and it gets really unwieldy. That is about I don't know. Well, that's one finger length, and then that's 1, 2, so 2-to-1 ratio. I think he's gone, but see how it goes. There are nuances within all of this, right? So there's no simple answer. We've talked about why the rods spin like mad. And I will talk in a minute about why they might just sit there and go, not playing today. But what I want you to understand, those of you that haven't seen lives about dowsing before or any of this stuff, those of you that are new to it, then it is about you as the mechanism connecting into something else that gives the allowing the response to happen. Okay. Now, once you get over the first basic hurdles of dowsing, which, as I say, we'll go into a bit more in the next half an hour. Unbelievably, we've done half an hour already, and I hope you've been able to keep up with the flow of monologue. Once you get over those initial hurdles, what you'll start to find is that because you're accessing your intuition and you're allowing yourself to be more present, right, more focused mindfully in the now, as Eckhart Tolle would say, lovely teacher he is, bringing the presence and the awareness into the moment, then as you're doing that and you're dowsing, then what happens is that you actually start to gently shift your perception on absolutely everything, on your whole reality, just gently. I mean, none of this is like instant miraculous changes. And even learning to douse is not necessarily a like, oh, pick up the rods, off they go. Whoa, they're working wonders. It took me days and days, or it could even have been weeks, I can't remember now, to get a decent response from the rods. And then it took me every now and again trying to use a pendulum. Took me fundamentally from the first time I picked up a pendulum to when I actually got it working. It was years. But that wasn't a constant process. That was just try the pendulum. Well, it doesn't really work for me. Go back to the rods. So there is always an amount of effort, an amount of intention. You need to do the work and practice. Practice is really, really important. But gently, your perception of what you are will change from being this, well, we are a solid human being. I mean, we are a solid human being. There's no doubt about that. But we also have the ability to change in so many different ways. And we have awareness fundamentally based on our belief system. We have awareness and the ability to affect things at a non-material level that then affects the material level. And that's where it comes into the whole quantum realm. Dip into the quantum, change, back up to human being. All of these schools of magic and all of these esoteric and metaphysical schools of thought and working, they all function basically in the same way. A person has intention, they learn to exercise that intention, and they learn to work with the intention and the field, which then starts to be perceived as a part of the person, the energy being. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, folks. What am I doing here? Digsy, day-to-day changes. Yeah, okay. With your response, yeah, that'll help. Pendulum wasn't working for me at first, so used rods. Then when I went back years later, I got clear responses from pendulum. Great. That's good. That's fantastic. It will fluctuate and change, and just go with what's working for you at the time, in that phase that you're in. Digsy, I suspect that the day-to-day it changes will be primarily due to how settled you feel when you're doing it. Remember, the dowsing does not, the responses, the infinite field of possibility, the quantum realm does not respond directly to just the words. Your dowsing is responding to you as an energy being, and you're a sensitive guy, and some days you're going to be feeling off. The little one's playing up, or the dog's broke his leg, or whatever it is, or the wife's been giving you a hard time, and you're going, why am I laughing? And your energy is going to be a little bit more disrupted on some days than others. Don't worry about it. If you still get responses, don't feel that the days when you get less responses means, oh, I'm not doing this right. Why am I not doing this right? Why am I not getting these consistent results? Don't get wound up in the frustration of it, because dowsing can be incredibly frustrating. This is what I was saying about the practice. It can be incredibly frustrating. Just go with what you get, allow it to flow, allow it to work, and just be grateful that you've got some response at all. I mean, directly be grateful, be thankful. Always. So look, in the basics, in the early days of dowsing, you know, I've asked you to focus in a little bit. We will get to the static no responses in a second. But in the early days of dowsing, I've asked you all to basically settle, to think, to calm, to go into a meditative state if you meditate, and then practice your dowsing. Now, at this early stage, you're not going into any space, quote unquote, that is deliberately dark or, you know, dangerous or anything like that. Dowsing is actually the safest way of accessing the subtle realms and subtle energy. Now, when you understand more about subtle energy and you've had more experience in accessing it, then actually what you'll find is that the perceived dangers are more perceived than they are actually dangerous. And the key thing, even at that stage, is to be mindful and aware of how, in what manner you access that energy, right? So what I'm leading to is, do you as a novice dowser need to use to ask for protection, ask for spiritual protection as you douse? Now, the thing is, it's a good idea to get in the habit of asking for that spiritual protection. And there is a chakra protection exercise that good old JF will pop on there, and it'll be there. Do the protection exercise before you then start dowsing. That's the best result. And then when you finish the dowsing, just visualize everything being clear around you and you close down. I've just seen that there's a question here. I can't actually read I'm going to have to get my glasses changed. My eyes are terrible. No, they're not terrible. They just need a little bit of adjustment. Fabrica, isn't it? There's that. I'm going to just go with you. So your question is, I came across this recently. Have you used your body as a pendulum? I don't like body dowsing. I just feel it's just like, no, I'd rather use one of these. People do use body dowsing. And actually, funnily enough, just very briefly, funny little story. When I was very young and learning my left and my right, so very young, I used to just pause when I was wanting to know the difference between left and right. If my dad had said, oh, it's on the right over there, I would pause and go, right. And then I would feel this hand tingle, right? So, and that's the right side. So that, in a way, that's body dowsing. And certainly I had no idea of dowsing at that time, but in a way that's body dowsing. But what you're talking about is actually when you stand and you can pick up something in the supermarket, for example, and you hold it in your hand and you ask the question, is this good for me or is this beneficial? Will this help my XYZ, eczema or something? And you'll either kind of go backwards, maybe, usually as a no, or you might tilt forwards a little bit as a yes. Body dowsing. It's quite fun if you like it. I'm not overly keen on it. John Stevens, right. How do you know you can start trusting the answers you get? I've had what seemed like stronger answers from rods and a pendulum in the past to discover it was wrong. Yeah, well, actually, this is great, John, because this is okay. Dowsing cannot be taken as being 100% accurate. You ask your friends about something. Maybe you've got a friend who's a great car mechanic. Well, if cars are not plugged into machinery these days to diagnose them, but let's say in the old days, you'd ask your friend about a car mechanic, and you'd say, well, my car's doing such and such and such and such, and it's spluttering and all of this. And he would say, oh, yeah, I think that'll be the carburetor. And you go, oh, okay, that's fine, that's useful. I'll have a look at the carburetor, get in there and start monkeying around, and it doesn't make any difference because he was wrong, right? So like everything in life, dowsing cannot be taken as something that is 100% accurate. So what you're asking, because you're not asking why the answer's not correct. What you're asking is, how do we know when they get correct? Well, the answer is that you do actually just have to plow on through and not get caught up in the frustration of incorrect answers. Accept, especially at the beginning, that you will get things wrong. And do you know what? Part of your initial exploration as a novice dowser is to find out what areas you're actually better at and you're getting more consistent results with than others. But bear in mind that your results may change, because upstairs, the conscious cosmos will want you to develop your dowsing. But to start with, play with things. So you can ask things about, if you're expecting a delivery, ask what time will it arrive. Let's not discuss the paradox of quantum not having a time, but just go in on that basic human level of what time will it arrive. See how accurate you are. Douse anything that you want, anything that's going to give you douse, where, you know, get your partner or friend to hide something like a playing card somewhere in the house and then douse for it, look for it. So you're either dousing time, which is the first one, or you're dousing where are hidden things, lost objects. Do that. Look for pipelines and electricity cables. Look for those things. Just practice until you find that you're actually getting a reasonable success rate. Except that to start with, it's going to be a bit rubbish. So this is why I say to people, don't pick up a dowsing rod, and if you get a great response straight away, you go, oh, great. Should I leave my boyfriend? Should I leave my girlfriend? Blah, 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 blah. Don't ask the big questions. Should I leave my job? Oh, there's a good one. Though, don't ask those questions, because to start with, you are likely to get a poor response. We'll come on to that again in a minute. I've got to get onto these stationary rods because I did promise I'd talk about them. Yeah, there is a learning curve completely. Yeah. Hello. I'm new at this, but every time I pick up the rods, they spin like helicopter blades. What do I need to do differently? Okay, yes. So Natalie, actually, what would be really good is if you, once this is over, go back and look at the beginning part, first 10 minutes or so, because I do talk about that then. And what you're talking about is basically you've got rods, you've probably got them in handles, so they're very free flowing, and you're getting that kind of response. You're not. So check out, are you asking a good question, feeling it? Are you settling into your dowsing mode? Or are you just going around and getting a spinning? I play Find the Hidden with my son, who is 8. Oh, yeah, that's lovely. That's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh, no, that's lovely, John. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I bet he's good at it as well, isn't he? Because children are brilliant at dowsing. I've got a 6-year-old grandson, and he's become fascinated. He just asks some silly questions. I want to ask the sticks. Right. Okay. Let me move on. Strange. Strange because it was complete blank. When the rod does exactly that, just complete blank, you ask it a question and it just goes, eh. Don't go into the frustration that we've been talking about. Don't go into the frustration. What it is it's not that you can't douse. If you've never tried dowsing before, it why did it do that? If you've never tried dowsing before, you probably are just not yet in tune with it. There will also possibly be an aspect of you, your subconscious. Remember, we said that dowsing really is about the person more than it is about the implement. So there might be an aspect of you that is actually saying, this is impossible, this doesn't work. It's a no. There could be an aspect of that, right? But more often it's not your subconscious saying, no, it doesn't work. Because if you were that way inclined, why would you be picking up the thing to try it? Now, I've only ever met one person in my life that actually couldn't get any kind of response from dowsing rods. And I said elsewhere a few months ago that what you might get is a tiny movement of one rod the very first time you ask the question. So really what you want to do is to reset. You want to think of yourself as in this instance, as a mechanical thing or as a computer interface. And you know how computers can get their knickers in a twist and get completely confused. Just Control Alt Delete, shut down, reboot, start again. So what we want to do for you is just to go and go, okay, come out of this energy that you're in, where it's just not doing anything, move around a bit, jiggle around a bit, allow your body to go, oh, hello, what's going on here? And, put your hands down by your sides. Be aware that actually there's a whole load of muscles that are keeping tension potentially in the flow between you and the rod. So just allow yourself to relax and relax into it. Even take your mind off onto the most beautiful desert island that you've been on, or the most wonderful thing that you were ever in love with, or what I mean is person or place or animal or whatever it be, or experience, and just focus on that. A high energy vibration is what you're after. And then just simply ask the question. And don't question what you're questioning, just simply ask in that energy of lightness. Ask again, see what you get. And if you can't get on with the rods, if you keep trying that and nothing is happening, try the pendulum. See how you get on with the pendulum. I haven't talked about pendulum as such. So I haven't really talked about pendulums, but really the way that I work with the pendulum is to keep the very, very short chain, because it instantly, it responds straight away if it's nice and short. Search position, backwards and forwards, straight line. And then we're looking for a yes response, which for me, I moved it then. Oh, nasty. We're looking for a yes response, which is going to go for me. I can't do it. I cannot do it with a pendulum. I'm aware that I actually am moving my hand. So look, it's going backwards and forwards, search position. What I would like, okay, so let's ask a question instead. Let's do that instead. Yes. Okay, let's do that. Right. So am I standing up? And the answer is a no, because I'm clearly sitting down and it's going anti-clockwise. That's the way I work with the pendulum. And obviously on videos, as many people have pointed out, it does look as though I'm moving my hand and it's like, whoa, hey, whoa. Now, part of the reason why it does look so obvious in some of these videos that I'm kind of waggling it is because I'm waggling it to get a search position, get some good energy going. I'm also focusing over here quite often on there's a few videos about dowsing floor plans. And once the pendulum starts to go, it's got a little bit of weight to it. So it does actually move the hand. But also, if it is spinning like this, I'm spinning it now manually, I want to get it back to a search position. So I have to move my hand to get it back to the search position. You understand that. The principle is today we're talking about rods. Okay, I found that sometimes, so this is, we can do it. I have found that sometimes changing the position of my thumbs to touch the 90-degree bend of the rod. Yes, yes, indeed. So this is, hello, right. So we got that there. Sometimes people hold it still like that, and then they'll take that off and get a response when they ask the question. That's one of the things. You can use your thumb as a sort of break. Might not be the way that you're doing it. Oh, brilliant. Excellent. My son and I were having yes, right. Oh, with the opposite free hand. Oh, I don't quite understand that. How do you, so you've got one rod and I don't quite understand that. Don't worry, don't try to explain it, because that's just, it's going to be a whole paragraph of explanation. But, if it works, doesn't it? Oh, hang on. Okay, here we go. I think I missed a bit here. I remembered I tried focusing chi at the rod and was able to push it with energy. Right. I mean, with open palm of the hand. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Cool. No, brilliant. I understand. I now understand. Yeah, fantastic. Great. Really nice exercise, because emitting the chi and affecting things is a lovely, lovely thing to try and do. Really good. I tell you what, I'm going to leave you to chat there a little bit. Yeah, well, again, you see, if you look, MJ or MI, start of your avatar there. If you've missed the beginning, go back to the beginning of the live and see if what is said there helps you, because if they start swinging immediately, a bit randomly, it's likely that you either want to take them out of the handles if they've got handles, or you need to be really careful about how you position them. Now look, standard rod, the usual way to describe the process is to hold the rod so that it's parallel to the ground. Now if you do that, the chances are that it's going to actually move freely of its own, not dowsing. It's not a dowsing response. It's just kind of like, oh, hello, where are we going? What are we doing? Right? Now, if you slightly tip the front down, it's less likely. It needs more energy to actually move one way or the other. So just gently tip them like that. And they've also got then a natural resting position. You can do that if you've got sleeves on them or not. Right. So let's, I'm whizzing through my notes here. We've got only 10 minutes or so, folks. Tell you what is nice, going on about that free-flowing thing, that free-flowing aspect where they're hurtling around. This holding a rod, the way, how much pressure, if you haven't got handles, how much pressure do you put on that rod? You clearly need it to allow it to swing, but you don't want it to be swinging wildly. And that's part of the problem with the handles, the sleeves, is that they allow a rod to swing wildly. You don't need that to swing like that. I mean, these rods are clearly designed by somebody that didn't do dowsing, as far as I'm concerned, because you don't need them that twitchy. No, you don't. So it's like, well, I don't. So you want this conscious friction. That's the expression that I wanted to get to. Soft grip, but it's kind of like conscious friction, right? So yeah, we talked about that. Let's have a quick look. So what happens if the pendulum, I had a question here from I think it's Michael, might be Michelle. No, it's Michelle Vine, I think, a little while ago, some months ago. She or he says, my pendulum has stopped telling me the truth. Yeah, so this is kind of aligning to John's question as well, where you can get perfectly good dowsing results, and then you find that actually your dowsing's all gone a bit bonkers. It's not telling you the truth anymore. I tend to see, I was going to refer to upstairs, the higher vibrations that we're interacting with, they are a conscious field. It is a conscious field, and it wants us to progress. So if we continue to douse the same questions or douse in the same kind of manner, which might be a little bit lazy, might be a little bit lackadaisical, then it is going to change the way that the dowsing responds for us, so that we think, what's going on here? What do I have to change in order to get it working again? And in a way, that's where the teaching comes in. It's a conscious entity, and it is teaching us. It is aware of us, and just as much as we are aware of it. Don't forget that fundamentally what we're talking about when we're talking about accessing the conscious field, the quantum field, we're talking about earth energy at different variations, different fluctuations, different intensities, but we're also talking about life. What is life doing for us? This is where the law of attraction and all of that stuff that we all know about, manifesting and all of this stuff, comes into play, and where dowsing relates to all of that stuff. It has to be stuff because that's such a wide and encompassing word. This does help you understand more about that, okay? Do pick up a copy, because actually it's going to be a lot easier for us all if you've got a copy of that, and then you start to ask me questions about what's in the book, and we can really build on that. And I will be running groups. I'm already running a trial group to see what sort of questions do people have that have read the book, and how have they found the exercises and all that stuff. But I think probably next month, June, I might announce, I think I would like to get another group together, another group of people, and take them on the same journey, so that we can really get this going. Because that path, for anybody that likes dowsing, for anybody that really wants to develop their understanding of what they truly are at this time, is one, I mean, I wrote it, so I'm going to say this, it's one of the best books that you can read on the subject of self-development, spiritual development, that is not laden with dogma, and is an easy read and will help you. That's the whole point. Plug over. Let's move on. Okay, so yeah, okay. Well, John, that's fine. Yeah, it will do that. It will react to the energy of a place like Avebury Henge, because you're there, because you're admiring and interacting with the energy of the space. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. You're a dowser, and so you have your pendulum on a nice long chain. Well, actually, you haven't asked me a question, so I don't know why I picked it out. You've got it on a nice long chain, and it will do its thing. It will start to move. Absolutely. I use a short chain because I'm impatient and I use it professionally, meaning I haven't got time to hang around and wait. I can't sit to go through 50 to 100 or so questions waiting for the thing to move. Do you know what I mean? Right. We talked about that. Why has the pendulum stopped us answering the questions? Let's have a quick look at these other questions. Again, a little while ago, this one came in. John M1111 asked the question, how about asking yes or no from God Almighty instead of the universe? Would that work? The answer is very simple, and the answer is yes. God, of course, is a trigger word. Everybody has very personal impressions of what God is, and I don't like using the word for that very reason, because it immediately, as soon as we mention the G word, it fires into people's imagery and associations, all sorts of different things. But if you believe in God, and I know a very good house healer who actually is incredibly in that vein, really does believe in the God Almighty, and that is what he calls on. That is who he calls on to do the work, and he has incredible success. That's in the healing arena. Very good man. And so, yes, it works. So really what you want to be doing, remember, it's not the words as such. And that goes against a lot of dowsing advice. The BSD, for example, over here in Britain, is the British Society of Dowsers. They do some wonderful courses and excellent trainers and all this sort of stuff. But one of the things they say is that you have to ask a very specific question. Well, actually, that can get the person tied up in knots trying to arrange the words of the question to be asked. And therefore, what actually happens is that the energy of the person is so wound up in how do I correctly ask this question with accuracy, that the energy of the person goes all over the place. And what is the response? It's not as clear as it might be. So just be a bit wary of that. Don't worry too much. Don't be too preoccupied about the specific words. If you're having trouble with the dowsing, then maybe pay attention to the words. That's one of the avenues you can explore. Is it the words I'm using? Or is it the way I'm feeling? Is it the way I'm feeling? And remember that the heart is energetically the major organ of the body. It is the major organ of the body that interacts with the energy around us on that energy perspective scale, the energy vibration. It is our resonance. So there's a brilliant organization that I've talked about before, which is called the Heart Math Institute. If you haven't looked them up, do look them up. They have been around for years, and they did loads of work in the early days about how does this work? Well, the energy field that this creates is a torus, and it's that energy field that interacts fundamentally with the quantum field of infinite possibility, and therefore manifests the experience that we have in that moment. I am now going to stop. So look, folks, Mark, hello, Mark. I am going to stop. How do finding ley lines in your home benefit house healing? Through dowsing, of course. Through dowsing, of course. How do finding ley lines? Yes. Well, I mean, yes. So, yeah, cool. Well done, Jeff. Thanks. We will look at this some more next live. All of this stuff. I hope you have been able to follow along a little bit. And I am aware that I do talk in quite a random way. But, you know, do dive back in if you're really interested. And we will continue this conversation. So we'll continue this path, helping novice dowsers as well as the more experienced. It's always a question of how we get the balance between those two ends of the scale. And really that needs to come from the chat. Andrea, yeah, I'm just finishing. Nice to see you there, though. Bless you. Sorry. So have a go. I can't say that the live will be next month. I hope it will be, but things are a bit mental at the moment. Things are as they should be. I may not have time for a live. Do look after yourselves, folks. Sorry about all the rustling. Do look after yourselves, and do remember that the only stuff you need to pay attention to is what you are directly experiencing. Please do not get caught up in the overall hysteria that appears to be going on in the background. We live in interesting times. We've known that for decades. Change is constant. Change is ongoing. It is always about change. What you're doing by learning to dowse is to discover that you can master the change. So be your own sovereign entity and love it. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye now. Thanks for being there, folks. Somewhere there's a button that says end stream. Take care.